What's up, y'all? So today we're talking about stress. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Geoff, I'm just trying to get some gains up in this bee. I don't care about stress. Well, actually, you should, because it's something that can absolutely impact your results, and yet it's not talked about very much. So there are going to be 5 big strategies that you can use, and each strategy is going to have some sub-strategies just to make it all the more actionable. First are mental framing strategies. Now you have to realize that stress is all in your head. It is your response to a situation. You're walking alone in the jungle, boom, wild tiger. That is going to initiate a stress response. Your heart rate is going to elevate, various hormones, adrenaline, catecholamines, cortisol are all going to elevate. You are going to be ready for action. Might be fight, might be flight, probably flight if it's a tiger, but you're going to be ready to do something. However, that is still your reaction to the situation. If you're sitting in a meeting and you're getting a low-grade tiger flight or flight response, well, a lot of that is in your mind, and it's how you approach the situation. It's how you react to what is going on around you, and a lot of that is under your control. So first, can you do something about it? So if you're stressed about something and you can do something about it, well, stop stressing and go do something. If you can't do anything about it, well, accept that. You can't do anything about it and stop worrying. So either way, stop worrying. Also, zoom out. A lot of your problems just aren't that big. They're a lot smaller than you make them. So you might think this is something that's going to absolutely ruin your life, but then you zoom out a little bit, you try to take a big picture approach, and it's suddenly not that bad. I think especially often younger people blow things out of proportion, like, oh my god, I didn't get invited to this party, oh my god. Find some real problems, okay? Once you go through some real shit in life, all these things that you used to think were a big deal, you suddenly realize they weren't. Gratitude. Appreciate what you have, okay? You are alive. You presumably have all your limbs. You can go do something. You have a functioning brain. You have internet motherfucking access. You can do so much, and I guarantee you a lot of people are in a much worse situation than you. Imagine bad possibilities. So you might think your life sucks. Oh, trust me, it could be much, much worse. And once you realize that, it really changes how you perceive things. Learn and practice stoicism. That was surprisingly difficult to say. So this is something that's very valuable. I'm not going to go into this in detail here. I might do a whole video, but stoicism is very, very useful. You have your past, you have your present, you have your future. You can learn from the past. You can try to anticipate the future in order to make your current life better, but don't live in the past. Don't live in the future. Something that used to happen, you have to accept it. You can't go back and change it. Something that might happen in the future, well, maybe you can try to make things better, but you can't change everything. Also realize that stress, to a certain extent, is useful, good, and normal. I think sometimes we always think that stress is bad. Training is stress. Your job is almost certainly going to have some stress. It's a matter of the dose. The dose makes the poison, and also how you respond to it. If you tell someone stress is good, it's probably not going to be as bad as if, you read an article saying, oh, stress is killing people, stress does this, oh, you're so stressed. Stress isn't always a bad thing. Next, social strategies. Being able to tell people no. Being able to politely refuse people is absolutely crucial. I'll tell you a story. It's embarrassing, but I'll tell it anyway. My first year in China as an English teacher, this is one of the first, it was like the first week or the first month of school, and my contact teacher, you have a contact teacher who sort of manages you and communicates with you. Usually it's another English teacher. He told me, we need you to sing a song in front of the entire school. And I'm like, I don't do that. Oh my God. And, they weren't having it. They're like, no, you got to do it. It's not in the contract or anything, but it's just, I guess, part of the job. So I'm like, yeah, I guess I'll do it. He's like, by the way, it's in Chinese. And you're going to have to learn it. It's tomorrow.
You fucking with me, right?
Unreasonable. Ridiculous. In hindsight, I should have said no. But I did not. And yes, it was extremely embarrassing, but I certainly learned from that situation. And yeah, maybe there are some situations when you can't say no, but there are a lot of situations when you can. If maybe it's a family member, they're asking something that's unreasonable, you can tell people, I'm sorry, I don't want to do that. If it's your boss asking you something that is like going above and beyond and is kind of ridiculous and unreasonable, you can say no. You have that ability, right? And so sometimes not saying no puts you in situations where it is inherently stressful. Why would you do that to yourself? So be able to set boundaries. I get dozens and dozens and dozens of DMs per day. If I'm active on my stories and I'm posting a lot, it might be hundreds of DMs per day. It's just impossible to keep up. At a certain point, I was spending probably 3, 4, 5 hours a day just helping people for free with their problems. That's not sustainable. So eventually I just started sending people coaching price lists. And some people ignored them and they're like, no, I don't want coaching. I just want to have you answer my questions for free every day. You have to tell people no. You have to be able to do that. And it might seem heartless, but for your own mental health, it's something you have to be able to do. So value your own time, because if you don't value it, other people won't value it for you. They're not going to be like, you're super busy, and so, I won't ask. No, they'll probably ask, and you have to be able to set those boundaries. Also realize that most other people don't actually care about you. Let's say you are in high school, and you're in the cafeteria, and you spill some milk on the floor. Other people look at you. They don't actually care about you. They're looking for your reaction, or maybe they heard something, or they caught something out of the corner of their eye, and they're just looking. They're looking for how you respond to the situation. If you go over to the cafeteria ladies, you ask for a mop, you get a mop, you clean up your shit, you take the mop back, you rinse it out, and then you go on with your day, people are going to be like, damn, he's mentally strong. He actually just took care of his shit. Or if you freeze up, you break down, you're like, what do I do? Yeah, maybe they're going to laugh at you, but it's not the situation, it's how you handled it. I also encourage you to make a list of people whose opinions you care about. Don't have this list be too long. Don't have it be 0, but you probably want this to be 5, 10, maybe 20 people.
But from that point on, he's been on my list.
I've gotten hundreds of mean and nasty comments on my YouTube page. I still read all comments, even though I've gotten, tons and tons of, not just critical, but like people going out of their way to say some mean stuff. But it's okay. They're not on the list. If you're not on the list, your opinion means nothing. Now, if there was, someone I actually cared about and they said something, a fellow creator or a peer of mine, they wrote on my video like, man, this was really disappointing. You really fucked up. I lost a lot of respect for you. Damn, okay. Now that's something to pay attention to. But if it's like, Fboy73 says, oh, your face sucks. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's just completely irrelevant. Habitual strategies, similarly, make a list of things you care about. Things that are actually goals that you want to work towards.
And it became personal with me.
Don't have this list be too long. If this list is 20 things or 40 things or 100 things, chop it down, prune it. You have to realize you can't do everything in life. If this list is like 0 or 1 or 2 things, that's difficult. If someone is like, I only live for the gym. Well, what happens if you suffer a major injury and you can't do that? Now you have nothing to live for, and that's when you get in some tough situations. I also think being fairly anti-materialistic is a good place to be. The more things you have, the more things you have to worry about, the more things you have to protect. Oh, you have an expensive car. What happens if it breaks? What happens if it needs to get fixed? What happens if gas prices go up? What happens if you lose your job? What happens if you can't afford it? What happens if someone keys it? What happens if it gets stolen? What happens, etc.? There are a lot of things that you need to worry about the more stuff you have. So living a more minimalistic lifestyle, I think, is a good way to go for a lot of people. Realize that most people don't really care about like the clothes you wear and the things you have and like the bling you're wearing and your watch and all that stuff. And if they do care about that kind of stuff, maybe they're not the kind of people you want to spend a lot of time around. Definitely don't go into debt. That is going to cause a lot of stress. Don't spend too much time on social media. Most people are only showing the good sides. They're not talking about the bad sides of the relationships or the bad times of their jobs or anything that like that. So you could get FOMO, fear of missing out, and you think your life sucks when actually it's pretty good. And not just social media, you might want to limit your exposure to mainstream media news. A lot of it is not entirely truthful anyway. A lot of it is unnecessarily negative because that's what gets the clicks. And so I think staying informed is important, but a lot of it is not actually going to positively benefit your life or even give you actionable information. And it makes the world seem more dangerous than it really is or worse than it really is. And so if you want to limit your stress, maybe don't spend hours and hours a day researching the recent end of the world that probably won't actually happen. I mean, the world has been ending for like 500 years straight, and probably before that, okay? I'm sure in the Roman Empire they're like, this is the end of the world. It wasn't. It wasn't. Also, work before play. A lot of you are procrastinating. You have an essay due at the end of Friday, and you start it on Thursday, or even Friday, or even you start it, and then you're like, well, I'm not going to finish this, so you go and ask the professor for an extension. This is all stress that is self-imposed. You know you have to do something. Do it earlier rather than later. And I say this as someone who is a procrastinator, okay? If you know you have to do something, just do it. It's done, and then you have all the time in the world to do whatever the fuck you want. And now a word from our sponsors. It's you. Yes, it's you. So if you bought my books, any of the three, whether it's Sweat, the Ring book, whether it's Resurrecting Your Gains, any of those, thank you so much for the support. It really means a lot. I don't have ads on the channel currently, and so it really does help a lot. For physiological strategies, breathing can be good. Obviously, everyone is breathing anyway, but there are certain breathing strategies. You can look them up. I don't use them, but I've heard very, very good things. So if you get in a stressful situation, just do 10 of those. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to count the seconds and shit. Just take 10 deep breaths. I think you have to exhale longer than you inhale or some shit just to calm everything down. Walking, especially in a natural environment, absolute goldmine for stress reduction. This has actually been proven and studied. And if you're getting in like 100 steps a day or even 500 steps per day, or even like only 2,000 to 3,000 steps per day, those are rookie numbers. You got to get those numbers up.
Like three, four times maybe.
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket. I want to. That's not why I do it. I do it because I fucking need to. I keep the rhythm below the belt.
Exercise, obviously, but I do think that some cardio is a good idea here. A lot of people are only lifting weights, and I do think for most people, you're going to want some kind of cardiovascular activity, but not too much. If you're doing hours and hours of cardio per day, that is probably going to get to the point where it's excessive, and it's actually going to be more stressful than if you did a more moderate type of approach. When you're weight training, don't train on the nerve. Don't get up, don't get hyped before a set. You probably want to limit pre-workout to maybe twice per week, especially if you find that it really, you're a hyper responder to it. That is the fight or flight. That is literally stress. That is literally putting yourself in a stress situation to lift more weight. I find that not doing that is actually better for progress. It's more sustainable, it's more repeatable, and I can work out 6 or 7 days per week. When people are like, oh, how can you work out that much? It's because I'm not getting fucking jazzed before every set, or any set, really. I've also heard good things about meditation. I don't personally do it. It might be something that I investigate in the future, but it might be worth trying out. Next, taking care of yourself strategies. The number one thing I think would be have a healthy diet. This is not going to be something that pays dividends in a week or even a month. You might not even feel the difference in a week. You might in a month, but probably not. This is something that compounds over time. So in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years, when everyone else around you looks and feels like shit, you're going to feel fantastic because you weren't eating the same shitty foods that they were. You might say, oh, Geoff, but I find it stressful to eat healthy because I want these other foods and they taste good and they help me relieve and blah, blah, and I need to relax and just stop being a baby. Eat like an adult, okay? If you need the food to taste sweet for it to, slide down your damn esophagus, you have a problem, okay? Learn to eat like an adult. Manage your stimulant intake. So I drink coffee every day, but less than I used to, and it's more managed and it's not excessive. I also think that if you're smoking, don't smoke. That is going to cause you might feel more relaxed when you do smoke, but it's also going to increase your baseline level of stress. Similar story with alcohol. You might find that it chills you out, it makes you more relaxed, it is a depressant, but in the long term, this is not going to be doing you any favors. And for a lot of people, they tend to rely on it, and they might even become dependent on it, which is not really a place you want to be. Sleep is also absolutely huge, and it can be a little bit of a vicious cycle. You're stressed, so your sleep sucks, and then your sleep sucks, so you get more stress.
Make your dreams come true!
So I think the best place to break that chain is probably these other stress management strategies, which will make your sleep better, which will make you reduce in stress. But you have to do something, you have to be actionable, because if you have been going down a bad path, it's probably not going to fix itself. And I remember when I was a runner, as well as when I was a lifter, but being too lean and just not eating enough, I was in this constant fight or flight mode to the point where I would wake up every 90 minutes. I would wake up early in the morning, not be able to go back to bed. Does that sound familiar? That's probably excess cortisol in the morning getting you up and getting you moving. But if it's sacrificing your sleep, it's not going to be great for your stress in the long term. Now, how much more muscle are you going to gain if you implement these strategies? I don't know. But I do think for health, if nothing else, if you find yourself stressed out, learning how to manage that through these 5 overarching methods is probably a good idea. Anyway, for more information on the training side of things, it does have a section on stress management as well, which has more actionable strategies. You can check out my most recent book, has information on perforating, plateaus, periodization, progression, all those nice P words. Feedback has been really, really good, and I appreciate the support. It means a lot because I don't have ads on the channel, and this is basically the only way that I make money from my work. So if you have gotten my book, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.